NFL Showdown strategy show. Tennessee Titans, Pittsburgh Steelers, another projected low scoring affair, 37-point total in Pittsburgh. I don't know, man. Every game. If there's 16 games on a slate, there's probably 13 of them with a sub 44-point total, 8 or 9 of them under 40 at this point. Matt and I were just talking about it before the show. Like, why are these totals so low? I think a lot of it's poor quarterback play, just guys, injured quarterbacks, bad quarterbacks. Matt thinks it's a combination of that, coaching, offense, all that stuff. But look, there's no denying, dude, these totals compared to what we've seen in the past. You look at basketball these days. I remember playing DFS basketball back in 2014. You go back to 2013, but even as far or as recent as 2016. And so a high total game was like 220, 225. You were getting 184 games when the Jazz would meet the Spurs or something like that, or the Jazz would meet the Grizzlies. Now you see games with totals well over 40 all the time. The NFL's going, and obviously pace of play, more 3-point attempts, all that. The NFL's going in the opposite direction. The totals are plummeting every single week, especially this season. It's crazy, man.
It is wild. We've seen a couple premier quarterbacks retire, a couple premier quarterbacks go down with injury. Like Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson, that's pretty self-explanatory. I assume we see Minnesota's totals come down. Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson. There's been a number of these, and then players just missing time. But I also think this is on coaching. It's weird to me that you can airdrop any quarterback into Kyle Shanahan's offense except Trey Lance, and they immediately become a Pro Bowl caliber signal caller. And then other quarterbacks, they end up in situations that maybe should be favorable, like throwing to decent receivers and stuff, and then they're just torpedoed by their coach. Dak Prescott stands out to me. I know he's coming off a pretty good game, but I mean, Mike McCarthy routinely just torpedoing that offense. And there's a number of examples of that. You could look at Devontae Adams. Garoppolo is probably the best. Garoppolo, he leads the league in EPA with Kyle Shanahan. He goes to Las Vegas and suddenly he's like a USFL caliber quarterback. I don't know, man. I think coaches have a lot to do with it as well.
I think you're right. But it boils down to the play of the quarterback, regardless of whether the coach is involved or not. And I agree. Some of these coaches are destroying quarterbacks. It's crazy. I mean, even Russell Wilson going from Pete Carroll to Nathaniel Hackett the next year. I don't know what you'd say about him this year with Sean Payton, whatever, but he couldn't have taken that steep of a decline that quickly. Good. They waited too many weeks to get rid of Josh McDaniels. That play calling, that offense was terrible, man. Terrible.
I love the Raiders.
Yeah, they are a shit show. Do you think it's possible that if the Jets were to beat the Chargers this week and then the Chargers lose again the following week, do you think Brandon Staley makes it through the season?
No, I think he's in the hot seat.
Me too.
He takes a high variance approach to his coaching, which leads to high variance outcomes. You win games you probably shouldn't, and you also lose games that you should win. And he's gotten dragged by the media a couple times when some of those decisions have not worked out for him. So yeah, I mean, he might hit Ron Rivera. I mean, Ron Rivera should have been fired before anyone in Vegas lost their job, but kind of feel bad for Davis and the Raiders. He's paying a ton of coaches to sit at home now. And man, these regimes are so funny to me. You've got John Gruden there, and all you have to do to be on the Raiders in the John Gruden regime is play in the game of the week. You have to be on College Game Day on Saturday. Those are the only players he ever drafted. Whoever was a decent player on a big team that played on College Game Day on Saturday, Gruden was overdrafting the shit out of you. And then you have the new regime come in, and all you have to do is be a previous Patriots player, and then you can play on the Raiders. Just wild stuff in team building from that regime lately. Just hilarity. There's pure comedy from the Raiders. Love
it's
them.
So bad, man. It's so bad.
John Gruden drafting Damon Arnett in the first round. I'm just laughing hysterically. Other GMs in the league are probably just we'll trade you our picks. Give us any players you want because you're going to mess them up anyway. It's almost like you double win the trade. You get a good player, and then Vegas is drafting someone horrific, and then they're going to play him.
if you're in the AFC West, you should be looking to execute trades with the Raiders
and the Bears.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're in the AFC West, if you're in their division, you should be looking to trade with them. Their first round picks have been so bad. Like Darius Hayward-Bay never amounted to anything. He was a first rounder, right? I'm pretty sure he was an early.
He was a first rounder. He just ran fast. That was before Gruden. Before that, all you had to do was run fast.
Henry Ruggs, that whole thing, is bad. But I think you could make the argument that if that never happened, he was still not a smart choice as the first wide receiver off the board in that draft class either.
Yep.
Jamarcus Russell, there's a solid one. Who was the offensive lineman that they drafted in the first round where everyone was just like, what?
Wasn't his first name Colton?
I thought there was like a Leatherwood or something.
Alex Leatherwood. He's from Bama.
He went in the first round.
I mean, they took Damon Arnett in the first round. Who is the defensive lineman they took? From Clemson at 4 overall. Horrific pick.
Oh, yeah. They just reach. They don't even have film in the draft room, like on the draft night of some of these guys.
Jonathan Abram, they took a box safety from Mississippi State, whose best career highlight was in their spring game. And don't ask me why I was watching Mississippi State spring games, but the guy can't do anything but stuff the run. And Fluffy, this is hilarious. It's very sad. In their spring game, he decleated his teammates so badly that they canceled the rest of the game.
Really?
Yes, at Mississippi State when Jonathan Abram was there. I was watching it.
Wow.
And it was his own teammate. It's like, dude, maybe let up a little bit at your spring game, but then they were like, sorry, we're done playing for the day.
That's crazy. His own teammate, he just killed.
Yep. Pretty sure the guy had to go to the hospital.
Cleveland Farrell was another one that Josh Gillum just said.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've seen the chat. As a Raiders fan, let's stop reliving these picks. I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to bring you down this road.
Anyway, happy to have you guys here. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Take 1 single second. Show us some love. Atone for your sins here on a Thursday morning. Subscribe to the channel too. And if you guys haven't done so, all of our stuff in podcast form. If you want to listen to it, maybe you want to close your phone, listen in the car. No big deal. Got us in podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you listen. Check out our NFL podcast exclusive stuff that you can only find in podcast form. 30-minute episodes. I think you will love them. And leave a comment down below here if you're listening after the fact. Appreciate you guys being with us. Let's talk about this game. 37-point total. Titans 2.5, 3-point dogs, depending on where you're looking. Will Levis starting with Ryan Tannehill out. You had mentioned to me before, you had asked me before the show if I saw that wide receiver rotation from last game. And unfortunately I had. They had 5 guys to get north of a quarter of the snaps. So 25+% to 5 different players, from Kyle Phillips to Burks. What a disappointment he's been in his he returned last week though, after a pretty long absence. Chris Moore, DeAndre Hopkins with the 3 touchdown game on like 4 targets. Nick Westbrook-Akina. All right, so here we go. We have to start here, and we have to start with Will Levis as well. We have our tools updated. We'll run the contest simulator or the lineup simulator in a little bit to make sure we can see what we're getting here. We'll run it for a large field for the 500K up top on DK. What are we doing at wide receiver? I mean, Hopkins is obviously the clear top option. Also, Minkah Fitzpatrick out for the Steelers. He's the top option, but still wasn't a big volume play last week. It was just 3 touchdowns. Also a blatant offensive pass interference that did not get called down the sideline. He'll take it though. Can you believe he was in the Millie Maker winning lineup? That's amazing.
I can't believe it. If you would have told me that heading into the day, I would have unregistered. But
yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, we got a little throwback DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, some of those balls were just prayers. Will Levis just lobbing it down the sideline. Very lucky outcome, but sometimes those happen in football. And he's still a talented player, even in his advanced age.
He's still good, man.
He is. Still good. I think it's somewhat telling that he has to sign with teams like the Titans, and good teams don't actually want him. But yeah, man, he can win 3 or 4 games a year and put up a good DFS score. The volume is what was the big concern, and you mentioned this. It's not just the rotation at receiver. He wasn't a full-time player. It was the targets too, man. Like, it's not every day you put up a 30 bomb on like 4 targets, score 3 touchdowns. Now, like, he's expensive because of that game, like really expensive. He is our most negatively leveraged player on the entire slate, and it's not hard to see why. It's a volume thing. He's also playing with a rookie quarterback. The team didn't throw the ball a lot. They ran more than they passed, which is a rarity in the NFL in today's day and age, unless you're like the Bears or something, or the Falcons. So yeah, man, I don't anticipate volume getting any better. The pass rate over expectation is extremely low. The rotation's nasty. There's a lot of negatives for DeAndre Hopkins, and he's extremely expensive coming off the massive game.
Yeah, that's the problem. You're talking about this is where I get a little bit bogged down. You go, DeAndre Hopkins is the second highest priced player on this slate. And I'm not even saying he shouldn't be, because look at some of the other options here, right? You're not going to price Deontay Johnson or George Pickens ahead of him. You're not going to price a lot of these guys, even Kenny Pickett ahead of him, or Najee Harris for that matter. But at the same time, it was still a 6-target game last week, 63% of snaps. There's something that concerns me a little bit there, because if you are a logical thinking, sane person, your first assumption is that DeAndre Hopkins probably doesn't do this again. And that's, 3 touchdowns on 4 receptions, a few deep touchdowns, one of them that was, should have been overturned. Makes no difference now, but I say that because it was a poorly thrown ball and he had to do what he did. You don't blame him. It's just, it was offensive pass interference. That's an expensive price point. We saw one game from Will Levis, and it just so happened to be an explosive performance from DeAndre Hopkins as a result. But Matt, if you want to play him at captain, he's 16-8. He's 11-2 at the flex. Like, I know it's only one game and it's not apples to apples. I can't just start comparing him to an AJ Brown or a Tyreek Hill, but those are AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill type price points if this were a Miami or a Philly slate,
The only thing I think that works in his favor today, there's a bunch of value guys. So if for whatever reason you decided he was the stud you want, you can pretty easily play him. When I was building lineups this morning, I didn't really have much trouble getting 4 studs in. The problem is with Hopkins is I would rather play just about almost every single one of the other studs over him. So if you decide he's the one you want, I mean, there's no issues finding the salary to get him. Opportunity cost isn't as high. But yeah, man, I would rather just play Pickett, Levis, Derrick Henry, the Pittsburgh receivers. He's pretty low on that target totem pole for me in DFS today.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're right about one thing. If you want to play him, you can. I don't even think Hopkins is a bad play. I'm just tempering expectations a little bit. You know what's crazy, by the way? The Titans defense, this pass funnel defense, they've allowed the 3rd fewest passing touchdowns all season. Isn't that nuts?
That is counterintuitive to me. I wouldn't have guessed that, no.
They've allowed 7 touchdowns through the air.
What are they, just like stopping guys on the 5 routinely?
Yes. Yeah, I guess. I also think I don't think they've exactly played the most explosive offenses.
Yeah, that division.
Yeah, well, I guess they played a few good teams. Chargers, Bengals don't count because Joe Burrow was clearly not himself. Derek Carr and the Saints, Baltimore, Atlanta. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, not that that's important here. We'll get to that. Derrick Henry is another spot where I look at this and, the first thing that pops into your head is you'd be kind of crazy not to just give this guy a lot of work. I know that Tajay Spears played 44% of snaps last week. I think Henry played around 65. 65 to him, 44% to Tajay Spears. Henry was targeted 4 times, which was kind of nice, man. If you could get that type of volume out of him, 22 attempts, 4 targets, 4 receptions too. He's actually not, I say it all the time, he's not nearly as bad a pass catcher as people think that he is. Like, he can actually break some off from time to time. At that, I guess the problem I'm having, if you're building one lineup and playing Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins means that it's going to get ugly everywhere else, Not to say that you can't do it, and you and I will build some lineups before we end this show and turn it over to the NBA strategy show. We'll do it for sure. But if you're playing one of these guys at captain and then you were to have, DeAndre Hopkins at the flex or so, that limits what you can do. It's not impossible. There's still some cheap options. But I think I still prefer that volume on Henry over Hopkins if I had to go with a 1v1 here in a single entry contest.
I think you laid this out well. And luckily, we have a large sample of Derrick Henry data. Guy's been in the league for years. And I think what we know is that he's more involved when they're playing from ahead. You can go back all the way to like the Dion Lewis days and see Derrick Henry seed pass game work and pass game snaps to whatever back. It just so happens to be Tajay Spears. But even in the game logs this year, you have a slew of games over 20 carries, and then you've got 4 at 15 or fewer. And I agree with you on the pass catching stuff. I think Derrick Henry is a pretty decent pass catcher, but for whatever reason, the Titans, through multiple regimes, have not wanted to use him in that capacity. But there's still a ceiling here. If the Titans play from ahead, you're probably going to see like 20 to 25 carries and then whatever random pass game volume he gives you. That's a massive ceiling. So I actually like playing Derrick Henry today. And I think in lineups where you play Hopkins, maybe you forego Henry because of the price point. To me, it's like you could probably play one of them, but I'm not sure I want them together. They sort of work together in altering game scripts, if that makes sense. So this might be a situation where I come in slightly underweight to both, but I'm playing them in very specific lineups. My lineup construction with Derrick Henry will try to build with like Titans playing from ahead in mind and vice versa with DeAndre Hopkins. I haven't run our contest generator or any of our sim stuff yet, but I'd be very curious to see if that's what happens, if we get a lot of like Hopkins and Henry, but they're not in the same lineup together. That's a curious thought exercise for me right now.
For sure. You know what else we could do when we do the lineup generator later on in the show? We could run it with like, neutral, and then we could run it Tennessee up, Tennessee down, and see what type of lineups we get with that. Because that'll probably be pretty telling, Yeah,
my intuition is that playing from ahead, you'd get more Henry. Playing from behind, you'd get more Hopkins.
For sure. You would think so, yeah. You would definitely think so. By the way, guys, we have a little post-Halloween promo going on. I know it's an NFL show, but I got to tell you about this because it's awesome. NBA lineup generator. The first week is less than $5, $4.99 for the first week of the NBA lineup generator. Now, usually with football, I'm like, hey, guys, do these promos on a Thursday because you get Thursday, you get the London or Germany game, you get the main slate afternoon, you get all that stuff, right? You get the full week. Thursday is the best day to do any of this. However, with NBA, you're getting basketball every single day of the week. So $4.99 for the lineup generator. As you guys already know, you can go in, you can lock players, you can swap players out, you can select whether you want chalky lineups, you want contrarian builds, you can just go all lineups. There's a million different ways you can do it. You can play for tournaments, you can build cash lineups, any of that. You go in, you select the lineups you like, you can see how chalky or contrarian they all are, you can see what the optimal projection is. And then once you save them, see all of your lineups, see all of your exposures, upload them to CSV. It's optimized for mobile. It's the best tool for the price, hands down, in the industry. I say that with 100% confidence. So if you want to check it out, Matt and I will run the football one later on in the show. But the NBA one, less than $5 for the first week. So what is that, like 80 cents a day or something if you're playing NBA? Hell, even if you play NBA only 5 of 7 days this week, it's $1 a day. And even if you're someone that plays $5 a day, even if you're someone that's playing $10 a day, this is still well worth your time. And if you hate it at the end of the week, you're down $5. You spend $5 in your sleep. So the link's down there in the description. It says 1 week of lineup generator, $4.99. Best time to get in. There is a promo code, but my assumption is if you click that link, it just auto loads the promo. Yeah, it does. So using coupon NBA treat, you'll see that right there. Just click that and you're in. Less than $5 for the first week. I know it's an NFL show, but these are some of the best promos we do when we discount the lineup generator to under $5 a week. Check it out, guys. I think you'll love it. You'll get a full week, 7 days basketball for less than $5. All right. So Tajay Spears is another guy. We can talk about him, but we can also talk about roster construction. How do you feel about playing him with Derrick Henry in some of these lineups together? Are you opposed to it? Do you think you'll do some of that? Because Tajay Spears, look, he hasn't been blowing up by any stretch, but as far as backup running backs go in this league, he's one of the more involved backup running backs in all of football. And I know it sounds weird. There is a path to him having like a 13-point game and Henry having a 20-plus point game as well. It's very much possible if they just lean heavily on the run today. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but both of these guys are involved, I'd say, enough to where we have to at least discuss it.
I think the most likely outcome where that happens is a Tennessee blowout victory where Henry's probably pulled in, I don't know, the third quarter, and Tajay Spears ices the game. And in a blowout situation, Henry probably has something to do with that. So the limited playing time in that situation wouldn't scare me. But if the game is competitive, I think they kind of work against each other, with Tajay playing primarily on third downs and pass game situations, Henry on early downs. The other thing that I don't love about playing them together is the price point. Henry's extremely expensive, and it's not like we get Tajay Spears at like a Rico Dowdle price or something. He's $5,400. Like, you have to make real decisions with Tajay Spears today, and there's opportunity costs with other decent players in that range. So this is a large field tournament build. You could see the path. I think it's a blowout victory, but it's a very specific game script that doesn't occur a lot, and you're occupying a lot of your salary by doing that. So it would have to be a pretty big tournament for me to consider it, but I don't think it's something you just X out.
And we do have him negatively leveraged in the top single game showdown plays tool. Like, you know, if you're looking at, because you can see projected ownership at captain, utility, top play probability, and then optimal captain probability, optimal utility. So like the likelihood that he'll be an optimal captain, optimal utility play, leverage score. He is negatively leveraged. I agree. That price point is up there. No question. But if you're running him solo, I think Tajay Spears is still very much viable in a spot like this, only because, look, the game script projects right now. It's a 2.5, 3-point spread, depending on the book. It projects to be a close game, but this is a guy that has 4+ targets in 4 of his last 5 games, in 5 of 7 games on the season. There are opportunities there. He's getting, you know, around 5 rushing attempts per game. So you're talking about still like an 8-9 touch type of guy, with half or more of those touches being in the passing game. They're more valuable. Only 1 touchdown. He's not getting the goal line work. I have no problem in large fields going to Tajay Spears, but I agree, I'd prefer not to do it with Derrick Henry. I just think that this is one of those weird spots where Tajay Spears goes off and rips a 30-yard touchdown reception, and you kind of wish you had him.
I think another thing that works in his favor is just the log jam of Tennessee receivers.
Sure.
So when I was talking about that opportunity cost, it's like, all right, what are the actual alternatives here? Is there like somebody we can lock in this price range? And I think I would prefer, you know, like finding the salary to a Jaylen Warren, but it's not a 1-for-1 comparison. They're 1,000 apart. Kicker and defense, I think, is close. The real player I have some trouble with is Treylon Burks. It's kind of, to me, do you think he works back into a full-time role another week removed from the injury? And I don't have the answer to that. I kind of thought he was going to play more snaps last week. So I don't know what Tennessee's doing with this logjam at receiver. But I mean, if you think this remains a pure logjam, then I think Tajay Spears is a little more attractive. What do you think about this, Laffy? I'm kind of working under the assumption that Treylon Burks and Hopkins like eventually start playing a little bit more. I was really surprised last week to see like Chris Moore and Kyle Phillips play as much as they did in a competitive game. Like, I did not anticipate that.
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins ran routes on 25 of 31 dropbacks. So it's not like that. That's what, let's see, 25 at 31, 81% of dropbacks. So it's not, you know, it's not really indicative of the 63% of snaps or whatever that he played. Treylon Burks, I have no idea what to make of this guy. I mean, so far, he's a flat out bust so far. And he is the direct replacement of A.J. Brown. I almost feel bad for him, right? Because he didn't ask for that to happen, you know? It's not good though right now. And I'm not really sure what to make of him because yeah, okay, let's assume that he does even return in a full-time role. He has proven essentially nothing. And now you have a rookie quarterback making his second career start. I mean, shit, dude, if I'm looking at this, I go, yeah, if I'm a rookie, I probably want to lean on the guy that has been one of the preeminent receivers in football for the past decade in DeAndre Hopkins. That's kind of the way I see it. Treylon Burks is cheap, though. There's that. But at the same time, I think I just prefer Westbrook-Ikhine over Treylon Burks. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine has been somebody that, regardless of what anyone wants to say about him, he is the type of guy that they target in the end zone. He's 3 touchdowns this season. He's always somehow somewhat involved in this offense. He's never going to be a high volume guy, especially not in a run first offense, but he's cheaper than Treylon Burks. I think I actually prefer Westbrook-Ikhine over Treylon Burks this week. They played the same amount of snaps last week. What am I missing?
I don't think you're missing anything. I agree with you. The only thing I thought might happen is they just give their former first-round rookie more opportunities, another week removed from the injury. And I don't have a good feel on this. This was just a question. I think it very well could be the same, almost 50-50 split between them this week. I think it's possible maybe they give their rookie more work after the bye. I don't know. He hasn't shown anything, to your point. What I think I really want to do in this range is just play Chig Okonkwo. His targets have been good. The only person to run more routes than him last week was DeAndre Hopkins, and he was one fewer route than DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, phenomenal usage, involvement. He's not going to be as explosive. You just don't see him run routes downfield like DeAndre Hopkins and some of these receivers. But for safety, I mean, $400 to go from Burks to Okonkwo, I think that's worthwhile. And I know we initially started this conversation in conjunction with Spears. I think my favorite play in this range just straight up is Okonkwo from the Titans with the safety he provides.
I'm a huge fan of Okonkwo. Really liked him coming into this year, so it's been disappointing, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I played him a couple times in season long, and my team is bad.
But what I want to know, you say that he's not used downfield. Why? Last year, he was a monster downfield. Seriously, Chig Okonkwo last year was literally their best downfield option. He was their best downfield option in Tennessee. Go back and look. Without question, he was the type of guy that if you threw him the football, he was going to pick up big plays. You know, he had so many of these like 25, 30, 40-yard receptions. And when I say so many, I mean relative to his target share, that I'm not sure why they're not looking to him more downfield. He's an athletic, big tight end, but he can get down. Do you remember that stretch last year where they started to involve him more? And he had like 3 straight games with a 40-plus yard reception?
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of like David Njoku, a hyper athlete playing the tight end position. I mean, I don't know what Vrabel's doing ever with his offense or his team, really. They win games in spite of their talent. I mean, he's a great coach, but I don't know what he's doing when sometimes they're involving these weird player, like Kevin Rader plays a lot. I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the answer for you is the end of the story.
If we were to go and rank these 3 guys, because they're all similarly priced, between Westbrook-Ikhine, Treylon Burks, and Chig, would you go Chig, Burks, Westbrook-Ikhine, or Chig's Westbrook-Ikhine, Burks?
I think Westbrook-Ikhine, but it's very, very close. We didn't even talk about like the red zone stuff for the Titans and the end zone stuff. DeAndre Hopkins leads the team with 6 end zone targets. Westbrook-Ikhine is at 5. No one else has more than 1.
That's what I'm saying, man. This goes back to last year too. You can check, but I'm pretty sure that Westbrook-Ikhine had more end zone targets than he should have last year as well.
This is unjustifiable to me. He was a shit college receiver at Indiana, undrafted. He stinks in the NFL. But at the end of the...
They love going to him.
What is Tennessee doing?
I don't know.
Other than losing games.
But I wouldn't be shocked if he had another end zone target or 2 this week. That's all I know.
Yeah, this is more from a team building perspective where Tennessee is making just horrible decisions. But yeah, I mean, the guy's targeted a fair amount. He plays a lot. He's targeted near the end zone. Those are high leverage opportunities. He's not expensive. I think you could play Westbrook and Keenan just fine on this slate. I definitely prefer him over like Kyle Phillips and Chris Moore, the guys that are really deep. Played a fair amount last week, but I mean, if Tennessee narrows their rotation, I think it comes at the expense of those guys in favor of Burks and Westbrook-Akina.
Agreed. Now, look, Kyle Phillips is cheap enough where he at least deserves a mention. The problem with a guy like Kyle Phillips is if the low volume of targets is not good because he's not the type of guy that downfield is just going to break one, right? He's going to be your 2 for 13 or 3 for 20 type of option. I doubt you're going to see much opportunity in the red zone. It's tough for me to look at Kyle Phillips and think the ceiling is there. Do you think there's a way that it is in a game like this? Because I'm having trouble coming to that conclusion.
The way my rosters were coming together this morning, I didn't think you needed to just go down in pure punt a position. We're talking a guy below $1,000 or something like that. Lineups came together pretty smooth without one of those guys sitting firmly in like the Burks, Westbrook-Akina range. Connor Hayward for the other team, he's 2,800. We'll talk about him in a second, but kind of living in that range is where I ended up at the expense of these really cheap guys. I mean, he could be squeezed from multiple directions. It's not just Westbrook-Akina or Burks playing more. This team runs a ton of 2 tight end sets. Trevon Wesco played 40 snaps last game. Now, this is crazy. He ran 1 route. They basically turned him into a 6th offensive lineman and just slammed the ball with Derrick Henry, which is a possibility. They might, if they get up in this game, you might see Wesco play like 60% of the snaps as a 6th offensive lineman. I mean, the Titans will do weird stuff like this. And when they have that 6th offensive lineman on the field, if you will, it comes at the expense of the wide receiver 3. So, I mean, I think this could be a situation where Moore and Phillips are squeezed, not even just from Burks or Westbrook-Akina playing more. It could just be the Titans' personnel choices.
I agree. And also, they don't even necessarily need to be playing up from with the lead. We've seen Mike Vrabel perfectly willing if they're down a score. We've seen him perfectly willing to run Derrick Henry a ton, which, quite frankly, I don't have an issue with that. I think it's, if you're down by a touchdown and you're saying, all right, do I want my rookie quarterback to lead this, lead the charge? Or do I think that we can keep this game competitive with the ball in our hands by running Derrick Henry? I don't have anything wrong with that at all. I will say though, the more I look at this and the more I kind of break down the slate and look at some of the discounted options, yeah, the more I tend to like DeAndre Hopkins, the more I think that he probably gets back to seeing more than 60% of opportunities. It did surprise me that he only had a 21% target share in that last game. It did, honestly. You would have thought with Will Levis in there, DeAndre Hopkins is flirting with a 30% target share. But after seeing how effective he was with Will Levis, this might I put it this way. I wouldn't be shocked if this did end up just being a double-digit target game for DeAndre Hopkins. Like if we look back on this game and we go, oh, Derrick Henry had 25 attempts and DeAndre Hopkins was targeted 11 times and nobody else, everyone else went out with a whimper. That wouldn't shock me one bit in a spot like this.
They should do that. He's by far their best playmaker on offense, especially in the pass game. The conversation's there for Derrick Henry, of course, but man, what are we going to dedicate targets to Westbrook-Akina and Burks? I don't see that being a profitable strategy long-term for the Titans. So yeah, if anyone's going to have like a 12 target game for this team, you'd have to think it's Hopkins, at least. Wouldn't you think?
For sure. I'd say if anyone could have a 12 target game, you have to say it's Hopkins. Like I don't see any come back and eat my words next show, but dude, I don't see
Westbrook-Akina 15 targets.
Yeah. Westbrook-Akina and Burks combined for like 29 and Hopkins is blanked on the day. That would be so strange though. Hopkins is still good. You just have to find ways to get him the ball in the vicinity. He's still good. He's still a human joystick with the ball in his hands. I don't know.
Who's the best QB he's ever played with? Kyler? Matt
Wait.
Schaub.
He played with Watson, right?
He did play with Watson for a
He
little
played
bit,
Watson. No, definitely Watson. And
yeah. All right.
come on, man. Watson
used to be amazing. I'm just
Watson during
clouded by
those
it.
years was fucking awesome.
Yeah, he was. He just sucks now. It's sad.
He does, and the injuries don't help. But no, come on. You don't do that. It was Watson. It was Houston Watson.
All right.
They had some crazy seasons together.
They did.
They really did. Trying to think, wasn't Hopkins like 100+ yard or 100+ receptions guy basically every year for a while?
Hopkins was the best receiver in the league for a little bit.
Yeah, 3 years in a row, 18, 19, and 20. He had 115, 104, 115 receptions, 96 in 2017, but he missed the game. Dude, he was unbelievable.
Yeah, he really was.
Holy shit. Looking at some of these years, he was remarkable. But we saw it last week. He can still do it. And hey, I think people forget when everyone's in like, oh, he stinks. Last year, he had 717 yards on 64 receptions in 9 games with Arizona. Like, he was still good. He was just banged up.
And he's playing for Arizona. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, wrap up this Titans team for me. I will say, last thing. You guys might not love it, but the defenses in this game are just very, very, very much in play on both sides. That pass rush from the Steelers, rookie quarterback in Levis, even this Titans defensive front, Kenny Pickett, you know that he can make mistakes, get sloppy when the pressure's on. The defenses here are very, very good, as gross as it feels every week.
Yep, 100% agree. I think the only thing we didn't touch on a lot was Will Levis, and just want to talk his skill set for a second. I actually think he's a pretty good DFS option. Real life is a completely different conversation, but he does have mobility. You sort of have to go back a while in college to find it. Last year, he got a turf toe injury immediately, and the guy's a warrior. He played through it the whole year. But the guy could barely drop back and pass, let alone run. But if you go back to his first year at Kentucky, a couple of years he played with Penn State, the guy has good mobility. And I don't think he's going to be Lamar Jackson or something out there. But if you're telling me he's going to run a little bit maybe somewhere between Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, I could see that being in the range of outcomes. So I think the floor is decent with him. He's not going to be super owned on tonight's slate, nor is he expensive. So I do like rostering him for potential leverage off the fact that we just don't know. It's a tough matchup for sure against Pittsburgh, way tougher than last week. But I think the overall skill set is enough where you could take some shots with Levis in lineups because of that rushing.
Okay. I agree. Yeah. And maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe he is. What if he's just good? Maybe he's just good, right? It's possible. Who knows? Anyway, let's talk about the Steelers here. You got NBA strategy show coming up after this. Also, appreciate you guys being with us. 16 likes away from 100. We will annihilate that number without question. Oh, and guess what? These pick'em sites, dude, have you seen these pick'em sites just going free square after free square now that basketball and football are here? Feels like every single day, Matt, there's another, like Derrick Henry on Sleeper today, over half a rushing yard is the free square. Half a rushing yard. It's just, it's free. Pretty amazing. Every week. These
places are competing for your business. They're trying to get you to sign up and play on their platform. And what that means is you're getting a bunch of plus EV opportunities to get your money down. And I mean, take advantage of these. They won't last forever. You're getting a half a rushing yard on Derrick Henry. Find something to pair it with. Max out this bet if you can. I mean, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, from 72.5 down to a half rushing yard. 99% off on Sleep. Not to mention, they have a first match deposit bonus of $100. No drip either. If you put 100 in, you now have 200. You put 20 in, you now have 40. Hell, put 50 in, you've got 100. You're doubling it out of the gate to your bankroll. That's huge. That's a huge bonus. 100% up to $100. So if you look at it like that, you're getting the free square on Derrick Henry, plugging that. Even if you wanted, like Matt said, even if you wanted to just pair it with one other guy and now just make it a one pick play, the odds are exponentially better. It's a massive plus EV spot. and 100% bonus up to $100. Links in the description. Link is in chat if you're not there yet. And the one very cool thing that Sleeper has that I've been talking about for a while, they have the dynamic payouts. So with other pick'em sites, all of the stuff you add, all of the offerings, right, have to be pretty close to like 50-50 propositions in some sense. Maybe on a traditional book, it'd be like minus 130 and they still throw that same line up there. On Sleeper, they have dynamic payouts, which means that there's multipliers on each side of one of these projections. So if it's now you could take like anytime touchdown score, it doesn't need to be a Derrick Henry who's minus 120 to score. It could be a plus 400 spot to score. So if you take the over on a plus 400 anytime touchdown score, it's a 4x multiplier. You can up to 100x your entries. That's a really neat feature. A really neat feature that I think going forward, a lot of these pick'em sites are going to adopt because it allows you to just do crazy stuff. Triple doubles, double doubles, touchdowns, all of that. Whereas others are limited to stuff that's close to 50-50. So if it sounds cool to you, it is a neat format. Derrick Henry free square today. First match deposit bonus up to $100 on Sleeper. Link in the description and in the chat if you're not there yet. All right. I don't think it'll be as hard to break down the Steelers. It better not be because we ran out of time, Matt. But with the backfield, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, man, what in the hell do we do here? This is a tough defensive front. Jeffrey Simmons, just some behemoths on this defensive line that can make life difficult for a Pittsburgh team that already can't run the football. Warren catches the football, but they cannot run the football in this offense.
You broke it down well, honestly. You have a bad offensive line blocking for these two guys now in basically a 50-50 timeshare against a phenomenal D front for Tennessee. You also mentioned Warren catches the ball. He's also cheaper among two backs I think that are both overpriced, but I'm going to get to more Warren compared to Najee, just cheaper price, catches more passes, and that's about as simple as it is. I'm not playing a ton of these guys. Being as close as they are to the pass catchers, I would just straight up rather play them against the pass funnel Titans defense rather than slam one of these guys into the back of this front.
Yeah, me too. Would you prefer Najee or Warren, though, if you had to go with one of them?
Warren, straight up, for price reasons and pass catching reasons.
I agree. Najee Harris, sure, the volume has been fine in a lot of these games. He had 4 straight with 14 plus carries, but he just does essentially nothing with them. He's coming off a 5-target game, which I suppose is nice, but he's just not efficient, Matt. Like in any
fancy AJ Dillon.
Yeah, it kind of is. You're right.
I saw somebody tweet Najee Harris runs like he's wearing jeans. It might be the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Dude, people were coming at us the one day when you said that AJ Dillon's the worst running back in the league. They're like, yeah, what do you think now, Matt? I look at his line. He had like 24 carries for 63 yards or something. They're like, yeah, what do you think now? Worst running back in the league. Again, the guy averaged 3.7 yards per attempt, and we're congratulating him on that. It's just not good. Not good.
You guys can come at me all you want. I don't care. I think it's good sport. Whenever I'm wrong, you guys should definitely roast me. Been wrong about a ton of stuff, but I don't think the AJ Dillon thing is one of them.
I was gonna say we're both wrong quite often. It's the nature of the game, and I will happily eat my words. I just find it funny to be like, well, what do you think now? It's like, yeah, just because he's been averaging 1.9 yards per carry and he had a 3.6 game doesn't mean that it's a breakthrough performance. Anyway, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. Pickens has the big play ability, and I love that. I know Tennessee's only allowed 7 passing touchdowns, but I am always a fan of a guy in Pickens because on a low-scoring game like this, we saw this against Cleveland earlier in the year, week 2, where they won outright as dogs against Deshaun Watson. Pickens had that big, like 70-plus yard reception. Might have been the only completion that Kenny Pickett had all day. But George Pickens is very much capable of giving you that big play, stretch the field upside. One play is all you need. I'm a big fan of that. On the other hand, Deontay Johnson is your possession guy that if this game ends up getting squirrely and it's super low scoring, he could get you there on 7 receptions for 70 yards, even without a touchdown. They're totally different players. They can get you there in totally different ways.
Absolutely. And they're both targeted a lot. Pass rate over expectations better for Pittsburgh in comparison to Tennessee. We have game script working in their favor. As of right now, I think we might be able to say Kenny Pickett is at least a more proven signal caller than Will Levis. What he's proven is up for debate. But I'm going to say something, but don't get it twisted. I'm not comparing talent. I'm just comparing condensed opportunity. Pittsburgh has almost become like Miami light, where we know exactly who's getting the ball in the pass game. It's Johnson, it's Pickens. Allen Robinson's the wide receiver 3. He has a 12.5% target share. Like, they're not targeting anybody else now that Pat Freiermuth is injured. Yep. It is Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. I mean, they're not as talented as Tyreek Hill and Waddle, but we know exactly where the ball is going. And then more importantly, you're getting severe discounts on both of these guys. 8,400 for Johnson in particular is crazy cheap. Pickens at 88. Compared with all the other studs on this slate, we're talking about the 2 most affordable players in what sets up to be a pretty good matchup. Tennessee can't stop the pass, not worried about that touchdown statistic. You just hope Kenny Pickett can deliver them the ball. And I happen to like Kenny Pickett quite a bit here as well. Full practice for him. Trubisky looked like a disaster last week, so it's good to at least have Pickett back in the lineup.
Big time. And to your point, in the 2 weeks since Deontay Johnson's been back, 31% target share for him, 22 for Pickens. But those Pickens targets can be very, very valuable against a defense like this, you know? Also, Tennessee shipped their best safety off to Philly as well. So, do I love how the offense operates under Matt Canada, and am I a huge Kenny Pickett? No. But like you said, it's all that matters on a slate like this is condensed target share. These guys aren't overly expensive. I think there's a good reason that in our top single game and showdown plays tool, these 3, how about this, man? Do you have the tool up by any chance? I'm assuming you have it pulled up somewhere.
Yep.
Sort by leverage score. Tell me who the top 3 leveraged players are on this slate.
Yeah, I didn't even mention this. I thought it was funny before the show, but top 3 positively leveraged players: Kenny Pickett, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. It's another reason why I'm not getting as much Hopkins or Henry. Like, you can play, I made lineups. You can do Pickett, Johnson, and Pickens all together and get a Hopkins or Henry. But that's what I prefer. I would rather have these 3 studs and then one of the Titans rather than, like 2 Titans, 2 Steelers.
My only question is, do we want to go with the double stack with Pickett, or on a low scoring offense in a game with a 37-point total? Again, I understand it's only one slate, but there are expensive options on the other side. Do we want to go with one of them and Pickett, or like, I don't know. How comfortable are you with the Johnson, Pickens, and Pickett in the same lineup?
Pretty confident and comfortable. When I was building lineups this morning, I thought it was pretty easy to make those and then get one of Hopkins and Henry. Like, the value plays, you could very easily do this depending on who you captain. And that's what I prefer, I think, largely because of pricing and how condensed it is. Rather than taking on Hopkins and Henry, who are negatively correlated, you can just get the entire Pittsburgh Steelers passing attack in the best matchup they've had all year, know exactly where the ball is going, and then still play one of those studs on Tennessee. I happen to like that quite a bit.
I hear you, man. It makes me nervous because it's Pittsburgh, but I don't have any other games to choose from. And it's not like the other side is this juggernaut of an offense. Yeah, you're right. I just sorted by optimal captain, right? Probability. It's Pickett, Johnson, and Pickens. We have Derrick Henry only 7% optimal captain. Hopkins at 6. We have Pickett at 16, Johnson at 14, and George Pickens at 13. I get it. I would say of the 3 of these guys, though, given the kind of environment of this game, I think I still like Deontay Johnson the best, based just on volume alone. He feels like he has the floor, but also the ceiling, in the sense that he could have 8 for 90. And if he scores, when is the last time he scored? 2015?
I don't know. When he was playing at Toledo?
Yeah. It's crazy. There were years where, with Ben Roethlisberger, that he definitely scored, but shit, man. 8 touchdowns in 2021, 7 in 2020, 5 in his rookie year, 2019. He hasn't scored a touchdown. All right, ready? Let's take it. I got to find this out now. The last touchdown he scored was week 17 of 2021.
That's unbelievable.
Right? And he played 17 games last year. So he hasn't scored in 21 games.
Almost feel bad for the guy.
I know. But hey, he's due.
There's nothing more dangerous than a player that's due.
Yeah, damn right, man. 21 games since Deontay Johnson's last touchdown. That's crazy. Crazy. All right. Wrap it up for us on the Steelers. We already talked about defenses, guys. The defenses in a game like this are very much in play. I like the Steelers defense more going up against a rookie. I think they'll be able to get to him. Minka Fitzpatrick being out kind of sucks, but they still got some dogs. What are you doing with the rest of the Steelers pass catchers, tight ends? And then we'll look at the lineup simulator and lineup generator before we get out of here.
Yeah, even with Fitzpatrick being out and then some DBs for Tennessee, I think both teams on defense win through their pass rush and D lines, which that can wreck a game plan, and both signal callers not exactly poised in the pocket to begin their young career. So I do like defenses. Last player to mention for Pittsburgh in a very condensed opportunity share, I think, is Connor Hayward, their starting tight end in the place of Pat Freiermuth. Pains me, but he's just playing well ahead of rookie Darnell Washington right now. I don't think he's going to be very targeted, which is why I still would rather get to Pickens or Johnson. But as far as cheapies go on this slate, he's a player that can sort of open the slate for you to get multiple studs. Allen Robinson's still technically the wide receiver 3. He'll split time a little bit with Calvin Austin, but neither player is targeted at all. So I think I'd rather play Hayward than either of them. And if I can, I'm just going up to get some of the studs on this slate.
Let's take a look at some of the tools before we get out of here. All the guys, by the way, all the links to this lineup simulator, well, really the Sims tool, including all of our NFL content for every slate, for every game, for every showdown, all the tools, everything included, no add-ons necessary. Links all in the description and in chat. And lineup generator, if you wanted that, we'll get to in a second. Link in the description and chat as well, if you're wondering where you can check these out. Pull up the lineups. Mike, you ran it already? All right, let's see what we got. You ran it at 30% payout? Okay, cool. I'm doing this because it's 500K up top. So pretty similar payout for this big one. Let me pin this to make sure that I can see everything okay. Get it up on our screen over here. Matt, if you expand the YouTube screen, we should be able to see these all right. You good?
Yep, I see it.
All right, so wow. All right, so Mike, I assume you favorited what, 150? All right, so, and you guys don't have to do that, but this is just for the sake of for the sake of seeing what we got here. A lot. Look at all of the captains, and scroll the lineups a little bit, Mike, but look at all those captains. Scroll them down a little bit, Mike. Look, wow. A lot of Steelers, dude.
A lot of Steelers. Johnson, Pickens. Yeah, man. Pickett. Kind of what we were talking about. So condensed. I'm not too surprised.
Mike, can you scroll up and just sort by win percentage for me for a second? All right. So 2 of them. So when you sort by win percentage, the first thing you guys are going to see is the amount of times that a lineup like this is duped. So the Sims tool is really, it's building lineups out on the contest generator to give you and it's trying to replicate the field. It's trying to mirror what the field's going to look like. So this is how many times they were duped in the contest generator lineups that they ran. Matt, how comfortable are you if you were to sort by win percentage and just be like, I know they're duped a lot, but I'll play some of those. Where's your reasoning on like how duped you care, how much you care if something is duped in these large field tournaments?
One of the best things about this tool is the simulated ROI in conjunction with the dupes. Something I've struggled with in the past is like, this lineup might be really good. Maybe it has dupes, but are enough people still playing it compared to its chance of winning?
Right, good point.
So something the ROI does is tell you, all right, this lineup still might not be played enough, even if there are dupes. That's how high the chance of winning with the lineup is. So I love that in conjunction. with the win rates. It really gives you an indication of how much a lineup should be played.
Right. And that's still a 179 simulated ROI, which is why, by the way, it's favorited. And it's one of our top 150. Can you go to exposures, Mike? All right. So it's a lot of Steelers, a lot of Derrick Henry. Keep going. I want to see who our highest captains are. Pickett. So it looks like of the expensive guys, Matt, the least we're getting to is DeAndre Hopkins at 26%. I do understand that though.
Me too. Really expensive. Coming off the nuclear game in a low volume spot too. And with alternatives on the other side. So yeah, it makes sense.
Mike, do me one more thing. Just, I'm not going to have you filter, but go to position and just sort that. All right. There you go. Look at the captains, Matt.
All Steelers.
All Steelers. Who are highest owned flex if you go down, Mike?
That was a bunch of Steelers too. I caught it for a quick, brief second.
Yep. I still feel good though that we're getting slightly above the field on Derrick Henry too. Because
yeah, I mean he can bury you.
Yeah, when you have two guys on a team that could see the large majority of opportunities, I would like to have one of them, in most of my lineups. So cool, man. A lot of Steelers in the Sims right now. A lot of Steelers in the Sims. I get it. I kind of like it. You broke it down beautifully too, talking about how concentrated this team is. One other thing, I know we got to get out of here. It makes sense when you consider how bad the run game is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing as far as the run game goes that you can feel even remotely confident about.
Correct.
Hey, follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski on the Twitter. Me at Laffy_D. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Go head over to the NBA Strategy Show coming up right now, right here on the channel. Hit us up on Twitter. Shout out to Mike for producing this one. Matt, good luck tonight, man.
Thanks, brother. You too.
We'll see you back here on Monday.
Yes, sir.
Sounds good. See you guys later.